The size of an average NFL receiver has varied greatly over the last 50 years. In 1970, receivers were bigger, coming in at about 6'1.5". 20 years later, due to the rise of the quick pass West Coast offense, that average dipped below 6 feet tall. Then over the last 30 years, that height progressively came back up to where it stands today, just under 6'1". That would give you someone like Devontae Adams. The wide receiver position has one of, if not the biggest range in size of any position. Just looking at the 2020 Pro Bowl rosters, receivers varied from DK Metcalf all the way to Tyreek Hill. But similar to what I said about quarterbacks in my previous video, the number of receivers drops dramatically when you go more than 4 inches off the average in either direction. The potential advantages of an abnormally tall receiver include better jump ball potential, while short guys possess the shiftiness to make plays in the open field. So, of these two polar opposites, which has performed better over the course of modern NFL history? Now, before we dive in, this video is sponsored by SeatGeek. Whether it's football, basketball, or other events, SeatGeek takes tickets from across the web and puts them into one area, making buying simple. They rate these tickets on a scale from 1 to 10, so you know when you're getting a good deal. Also, first-time buyers can use my promo code KTO at checkout for $20 off their first purchase. Shout out to SeatGeek for the sponsor. Now, let's kick things off. Looking first at the tallest receivers in NFL history, I came across a few interesting stats. Despite the game having quite a number of exceptionally talented dudes who were 6'5", I could only find a few receivers in NFL history that were at least 6'6". I believe that there may be a few more, but it's difficult to find official heights of guys who played back in the day. I also do want to clarify that I'm not including tight ends in this video. Anyways, looking more into these rare individuals, Chris Durham entered the NFL at a whopping 6'6", 216 pounds, and ran a 4.4 in the 40-yard dash. This rare speed and height combination got him selected in the 4th round of the 2011 NFL Draft. But a 400-yard season in 2013 was the best that he produced, before being out of football entirely by 2015. He was cut by the Lions prior to the 2014 season, and the top comment on this article from ProFootballTalk.com had an interesting perspective. Despite this dude's 4.4 speed, this commenter mentioned how slow Durham appeared. Combine that with his lack of ability to hold onto the ball were the reasons why he got cut. Other 6'6" receivers include Carlton Agudosi and Brandon Coleman. Agudosi never played a snap in the NFL, and Coleman, on the other hand, was the most successful of the three. Despite going undrafted in 2014, he went on to put up decent numbers as a 5th or 6th option for Drew Brees for a few years. He would end up failing a physical prior to the 2018 season and retire the following year. Overall, the 3 receivers that I could find who were 6'6" weren't overly impressive in the pros. But that all changes with this next dude, coming in as the tallest receiver in NFL history at a towering 6'8". We have Harold Carmichael. Carmichael is truly a unicorn when it comes to NFL football. When he entered the league, Philadelphia moved him to tight end, thinking that it would be a better fit for his size. But even though the man was 6'8", he was very skinny for his height. The man did not have the strength like a blocking tight end, but he was decently effective in the receiving game in his first 2 years. That's when the Eagles decided to move him back to receiver, and that's when this dude exploded onto the scene. Carmichael went on to lead the league in catches and yards in his first season as a receiver, and over the course of the coming years, he made a huge impact on the game. For one, he set the NFL record catching a pass in 127 consecutive games, and he gave rise to the wide receiver quick screen, which is popular now, but back before the 70s, it was unheard of, and Carmichael's natural ability to gain yards after catch made him unstoppable at times. It's pretty wild to think that a 6'8" dude revolutionized the quick pass, which is really the opposite of what most people would expect. You'd think that a tall guy would be a jump ball specialist, and a short guy would be a quick screen guy, but that's just what's so crazy about Carmichael. This dude's rare blend of size, balance, hands, speed, and perhaps the most impressive feat, his ability to avoid injuries, is what made him truly a unicorn. A one-of-a-kind athlete that we probably won't see again in the NFL. Overall, really tall guys just don't play receiver. And I think the 3 big reasons to this are 1, athletic tall guys are extremely rare in the first place. 2, the few that exist are probably going to play basketball instead. And 3, the ones that do decide to play football that are above 6'5" are usually because they're bigger, meaning they end up playing tight end or even linemen. So that's kind of the story with these tall dudes. Now, let's go look at the opposite side of the spectrum.
They've been doing with him. Winston's going to take another chance. Wide open is his man. It's Harris, and he is in. Touchdown.
Once you dip below 5'8", there are less than 10 dudes that I could find that have played receiver in the NFL. The 2 shortest, both coming in at 5'5", are Jakeem Grant and the slightly shorter Trindon Holiday. Trindon Holiday was selected in the 6th round of 2010, which I believe makes him the shortest drafted player in league history, coming in at just around 160 pounds. He was drafted almost entirely because of his world-class sprinting ability. At LSU in 2009, he reached the NCAA 100-meter final and took first, posting one of the fastest times in the world that year. But in the NFL, he barely managed to get on the field as a receiver, catching only 2 passes in his 4-year career, which just so happened to be on back-to-back plays. The only reason he even lasted 4 years in the NFL was for his return ability, which I don't want to spend too much time on since that's not the point of this video. But I do want to point out that this is a common trend among these shorter guys. Ultimately, Holiday's size was mostly a liability. He was so tiny. Remember that time he got laid out by Pat McAfee?
Atonement, and McAfee bangs him out of bounds.
This was one of those rare moments where a punter outweighed a guy he tackled by a staggering 70 pounds. Anyways, to move on to our next 5'5" receiver, we have Jakeem Grant. Like Holiday, Grant has been more effective in the NFL as a return man, but he has been more of a contributor on offense than Holiday was. Now, it is worth pointing out that I don't know exactly how tall he is because different sources say different things, but NFL.com has him at 5'5", so I'm gonna go with that. After being drafted in the 6th round in 2016, Grant saw his playtime offensively increase over the course of 5 seasons in Miami, to the point where he became the 3rd most targeted player on their team in 2020. But 2021 saw a huge decline in his production, and he was traded to Chicago during the season. Here's an interesting note. Despite being traded mid-season, he still made the Pro Bowl as a special teamer. I don't know if this has ever happened before, but it's pretty wild nonetheless. Now, after Grant and Holiday, the next shortest players are 5'6". And with every inch that you go up from here, the receiving production increases dramatically. Once you reach 5'9", that's when you get to the shortest Hall of Fame receiver ever, Tommy McDonald. Also, I did state that smaller receivers tend to make it to the NFL for their return ability, which is true. However, there's been a few dudes who haven't gone that route. Cole Beasley, Taylor Gabriel, and Andrew Hawkins, all of whom were under 5'8", had or are having solid careers and played little to no special teams. Despite how rare these small receivers are, Gabriel and Hawkins were on the same team for 2 years and were 2 of the Browns' main targets in 2014 and 2015. So, in conclusion, small guys would probably be the better bet if you had to choose one, due to their versatility in both the passing offense and possibly special teams, like we saw with Jakeem Grant and Trindon Holiday. There's also a lot more NFL caliber athletes under 5'8" than skinny dudes over 6'5". But honestly, I can't get over this next stat. According to FantasyIndex.com, there are 29 receivers in the Hall of Fame, and only 3 of those are over 6'3". Randy Moss, who's 6'4", Calvin Johnson, who's 6'5", and finally, 3 inches taller than Megatron, the 6'8" Harold Carmichael. Seriously, I can't get over how insane this Carmichael dude was. Despite being bone skinny and playing in the 70s where dudes were getting nearly decapitated, Carmichael dominated, hardly ever missed time, revolutionized the game, and will go down as one of the most unique players to ever play in the NFL.
Flanked out wide to the right. Downs is out with him. Rookie. A lot passes. Look at that. He was man-to-man on Wall. He got a step. Wall just got his right hand in there and missed. But the surprising thing, I don't know where the weak safety was. There's no way that Walls can cover man-to-man